Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick, and this is MSFS Flight Plans, and I don't know about you guys, but I am having a whole lot of fun. I was just thinking about that today as I was making my notes for this trip. I love hunting for our locations, flying the planes, I love the research, and I even love watching our videos. Some of these things I've gone back and watched 3 or 4 times if I'm not even the one that made them. They're that interesting to me. But most of all, I love this channel's community. You guys are why I do this, because there isn't much in the way of monetary rewards for a flight sim channel on YouTube, so there has got to be something other than that to keep anyone going, and for me, that is you guys. Hearing one of y'all say that you decided to learn how to fly the choppers, or take one of our flights, or learn something new, that is all the motivation I need to keep putting in the work. So with that being said, let's get on to today's trip. As I teased out on Discord, we've got an incredible volcano to check out in the Cape Verde Islands off the western coast of Africa. But we got a bit of a climb to get up to the crater, so let's go ahead and hop in the old DoubleEnder here, and then I'll tell you about how I wound up out here, and why we're taking this plane, and of course, everything I could learn about these islands, which aren't real big. I'll show you a quick little Google map before we get going, but let's go ahead and fire this baby up real quick. So we'll start with the back engine. That was easy. And the front engine. Okay, we'll let it warm up just a little bit. Let's take a look at this map. So here's Africa, South America. Probably don't need to tell you guys that much, but here is where... So here's the Canaries up here. We took that trip quite a while ago. And here's Cabo Verde, Cape Green Cape. And the island that we're on is right down here. So where we're going to leave from is this town up on the top called Fajazina. I guess that's how you'd say that. Come up this way. This is the outer rim of a big crater they've got up here, and then here's where the main volcano is right now. So we're just going to come right around this lip right here, and remember that, the Caso do Presidente. I'm going to show you where that thing is, and as much as I could figure out about what it is. Come around the inside of this lip, and then come right around here on the outside, and then come right back down. We're going to land at the biggest city on this island, if we can even call it a city, São Filipe. And that's going to be it. Probably about 20 minutes or so in the air. But let's go ahead and get going. I really like this plane. The reason why I'm taking it, I took a test flight with one of our other members the other day, and I was just like, well, what are you flying? She said the DoubleEnder, and I was like, all right, I'll take the DoubleEnder. And that wound up being just perfect for this trip, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So let me get a little NavMap set up over here. Everything looks good to go there. And this is the live weather, and it is breezy. You could probably hear it outside. Right now we've got a 12-knot crosswind, but on my last test flight, it was about a 20-knot crosswind on landing. So we'll see how that goes. All right, here we go. Parking brake off. And we're going to get up in the air real quick. I'm not even going to give it any flaps, and then I got to just try to fight this crosswind. And we're off. So, of course, we've taken the DoubleEnder on a couple of flights before. Another one from Got Friends, actually. We just flew their helicopter last week. And you can't even see that runway. I tried coming into it the first time. I could hardly see it. Look down there. Barely see it at all. But this thing can climb insane. I don't think I'd ever try to take this to the hilt as far as climbing goes. You can get up to 3,000 feet a minute effortlessly in this thing and still be nowhere close to stalling. So we're going to get up to about 6,500, 7,000 feet as we come around the rim of this thing. And as you can see down there, all default scenery, a little bit blurry as you get close to ground. So I would say overall graphical rating, maybe like a 6 out of 10. Once we get a little higher, the terrain's pretty good. Really good, actually. So I'd probably give that a 7 out of 10. But as far as just a surreal, otherworldly experience, this one's going to be a 10 out of 10 for me. Really good. See, all that stuff's default down there. And the reason why I'm out here, again, when we first started the channel, which, by the way, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary for this channel. But a few months after I started it, one of our first flight recommendations was to come out to the Cape Verde Islands. And the person didn't really say which one to go out to, so I popped on a few of them. Couldn't figure out why they called it Cape Verde, which means green, because the islands I went to weren't very green at all. And the scenery was okay. There's not a huge amount of population out here, so not a lot to look at. Never made it down to this one, but you guys know, if you've been watching for a while, that I've been on this hunt for these nondescript islands around the world, especially if they have a volcano. And this one has it. A huge volcano. And wait till we get inside of this thing. Okay, so that presidential palace is somewhere down there to the right, and it's really tiny and tucked into the trees. I'm just trying to kind of dip a wing, see if we can spot it. I think this is it right down here. And there's another little one right up here somewhere. But they said that was, it's no longer in use, but it was one of the presidential palaces that the government heads were using out here. But now they said, according to the Google reviews, that it's all just ramshackled and spray painted and stuff. So looks like it's probably pretty hard to get up to as well. See, that didn't look too bad. Look at that terrain there. And now this looks stretching over here off in the distance, but as we get closer, it's really just this section right here that doesn't fix itself. Everything else looks really good. And you can see it's kind of popping a little bit. All of the relief on this volcano looks great. If you want to go up and look in the very top and the inside of it, it's not a real deep crater on the top. But you can see down in there. You don't have to get too much higher than the lip of it. But it gets a little bit fuzzy if you fly over too close. I much prefer to just fly around the edge of it here. So this is Fogo Mountain. And this active volcano at the peak is called Pico do Fogo, which means peak of fire. And as you can tell, there's something missing up here. Like half the mountain. 73,000 years ago, this entire eastern side of the island slid off into the ocean, and I don't think it blew up and blew off. I have a feeling that it was, because this volcano isn't really powerful, it erupts quite a bit, it's a very active volcano. But I think they probably had the old magma chamber collapse, and it just sent the whole side of the island going down to the ocean. And there's an island off to our east, about 40 miles, called Santiago, that I'll tell you about in just a little bit. And they said that when that happened, I guess they did soil samples or something to figure it out, because it was 73,000 years ago. But they said that it sent a tsunami over 500 feet high over to that island, which is a big tsunami. I wouldn't be surprised if Africa got a little splash from that too. And look at this. They got a town up here, right in the top of this thing. Got about 1,700 people living up here. And they got bars and restaurants and hotels. And I looked at some of the pricing for the hotels. About 50 bucks a night for a decent one. And if you want to get the nicest one out here, it's only about 100 bucks a night. If you don't mind coming out here, see, look at this. Looks unbelievable. Even right here on the sides here, that looks great. It's just this one little spot right here. Not perfect, but all the way around out here, it looks good. And you'll see when we come over here, it kind of dips down before it comes back up again, which is just awesome. All right, let's fly kind of low around the rim of this thing. Look at that. They got a town down there. And of course, I had to land in here while we were up doing our test flight, which is awesome. Once you get about 500 feet above the ground, you can tell that the texture and relief starts to fade away. But that's to be expected. That happens anywhere. How wild is this? Look at that. I mean, we're, again, closer than 500 feet. If we were a little further away, incredible. Look at these striations up here. Unbelievable. And then off to our left, the giant volcano. Let's do a close pass by that thing, too. So this thing has erupted a lot. Some fairly sizable burps as recently as 2015, which I think blanketed a lot of that town that we just left from, Fagizina. And when we look at that one on the satellite map at the end, which is going to be a quick little satellite tour because there's not a lot to see out here, it looks a lot like Comoros did. A lot of the roofs are just collapsed, maybe even an abandoned town. I counted a total of 4 cars on the road on the satellite map. Look at this little ravine down here, how it dips down there. Crazy. All right, let's cruise over and check out this volcano. And that strip that we left from, if you can find it, is about 2,000 feet long. So if you want to try to land there or take off there, you'll probably be fine in most of your smaller planes. So from the very tip of this, which gets up to, I think around 9,000 feet, to the ocean, it's less than 3 miles, which is a pretty steep slope. But imagine the view up here, just standing on this precipice over here. Unbelievable. And I was thinking maybe this is frost or snow, but there's no way at, what are we, 8,000 feet? I don't think that's going to be cold enough for that. So maybe it's just something about the soil up here. But it's really white in the inside too. I couldn't tell if it was snow or what was going on there. Look at that view. Unbelievable. All right, when we come around the side here, we're going to follow a little switchback. I'm going to go ahead and cut the throttle so we can start coming down, which looks really cool, which is that one road that comes up here. You can see the road down there, which wraps around the inside of the crater. Look at the texturing on those rocks. Fantastic. Really, really good. I don't think it's this good on the rest of the Cape Verdes. I don't remember it being this good, which is why I didn't come back out here. Here's that switchback, see it? Right underneath us. And because there's no photogrammetry, you can just crank the graphics through the roof, which is exactly what I did. I was hoping there'd be some ships out here because I have all my shipping traffic turned on, but they didn't give us any of those. Even that road looks really good. And I read that this place has been particularly prone to famines. Even up to the 1940s, they had a really bad one out here in the 40s that said killed off 1/3 of the population. And it looks like they tried to do a little farming down there, but this soil doesn't look like... You'd think volcanic soil would be great for farming, but maybe it just keeps getting washed away by the rain, which is possible. But if they keep having droughts and famines, maybe it doesn't get all that wet out here. So as we're coming in, a little bit about the history of the Cape Verde Islands. Believe it or not, these things were completely uninhabited when the first Europeans, who happened to be the Portuguese, arrived in 1456. So a few decades before Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And in 1462, the first settlers, who were also Portuguese, arrived at the biggest of the islands, which is that one off to... There it is over there. That's Santiago. That's the one that got hit with the tsunami. They arrived out there and set up a town called Ribeira Grande, which has since been changed to a different name. And that translates to Big River, which is probably a marketing gimmick because it's on a very small river. But once the slave trade got ramped up, that city became the second richest in the entire portfolio of Portuguese landholdings. So they made it the capital of the archipelago, but it was way out here on an island along a very popular trade route, which made Big River a favorite target for the French, British, and of course pirates, who attacked it so many times that they eventually moved the capital a little bit to the east, about 6 miles to the east, at a place called Pria, which had a much more defensible harbor. Maybe we'll scoot over there and take a look at that too on the satellite map. There's a runway down there. We do have an add-on for that airport. Looks way better, and it's like 6 kilobytes. Did a great job on it. So that will be linked in the video description, along with this flight plan, which you could definitely VFR fly. But just to get you to the airport without having to hunt around too much, you can load that up in the little NavMap. It'll bring you right in there. And then, of course, our bookmark file. No bookmarks in this one either, because there's not all that much to look at. But if you want to take any of our other flights and have all of the bookmarks pop up in little NavMap, that'll be in there too. But once the slave trade dried up in the 19th century, these islands entered an economic slump, so they shifted to being a provisioning stop for ships making the journey across the Atlantic. And for reasons I couldn't quite discern, they once again moved the main port about 150 miles to the northwest to the city of Mindelo on the island of São Vicente. And I've been saying Sao Paulo when we took that trip, and our man Dan Buck, who set up our Discord server, is from Sao Paulo. And I figured, I'm probably Americanizing that a little bit, so I went and watched a video of a guy pronouncing that correctly, and he said you say the O part like sound, kind of nasally. It's not Sao Paulo, it's Sao Paulo, according to him. So I'm going to try to get that right from here on out. Looks like there's some more terracing right down there in front of us. And then zooming in a bit to the history of this island, which again is called Fogo, which means fire. This was the second to be settled sometime between 1470 and 1490, making our arrival location of São Filipe the second oldest town amongst all the islands. And you can see the town on the other side of the runway over there. All right, let's slow down even a little bit more because we got to come down some. All right, so real quick, a couple of announcements. Be sure to join our Discord server. That's where all the action is. I'm always taking flights almost every night, except for the nights I'm recording. So if you want to join me for a test flight, please do. A lot more fun when I'm not flying by myself. And so far, I haven't had to fly alone very often. And if you want to say hi, leave a comment or join the Discord. That's fine too. I love hearing from you guys. You know that I answer every one of the comments if there's something to be answered to. I have a little thing on my phone that lets me know when a comment comes through, which just excites me to no end. Again, that's all the reward I need, is just to know you guys are having a good time. So hop in and say hi. Some upcoming flights: the Florida Panhandle, El Paso, which looks amazing, photogrammetry for both the Panhandle and El Paso, and then Budapest. I cannot bring myself to start researching that. There's just so much to see. It's like I'm just overwhelmed. But we will get out to Budapest, which also looks incredible, also photogrammetry. I think I want to get in a German castle tour. And then if you guys want to, I love flying around the Shetland Islands. There's not a lot to see, but it's just a really cool flight. So if you want to do that, let me know. We'll check out the Shetland Islands. I do have a little add-on pack from Orbix that puts a lot of landmarks out there. All right, some flaps. And I'm going to come about halfway down the runway so we can get to the airport down there. So we've got a 21-knot crosswind coming down from our right side right now, so we'll just kind of crab our way in here. And of course, we've got our Suggest a Flight competition each quarter. And I changed our server a little bit. I removed the flight plans section in there for the Discord server. So if you want to recommend a flight, my initial thought, as you guys probably recall, was submitting a full-blown flight plan for me to load up. But now I think just let me know the takeoff airport, the landing airport, and some places to see in between, because I'm going to redraw the flight plan anyway to make it as good and as efficient as it could possibly be. So just use the Suggest a Flight section, because now the flight plan section is no longer there. Nobody was using it anyway. Trying to clean it up a bit. All right, the wind's down to 6 knots now, so it was just while we were up there a little bit. And this thing won't stall until 39 knots when it's fully flapped, which we now are. And man, is this thing hard to steer on the ground. You really have to use the differential braking because trying to steer with the rudder pedals does not do very well. Man, we got to crab a little bit more here, don't we? Well, this will be fun. Yeah, this airport looks so much better than it did before. Really did a good job with this. And I forgot to check out the modder's name. I want to give them a shout out. Oh, I'm just trying to stay on the center line here. And we're stalling. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. That worked out well. Okay, so now we got to work the brakes. All right. Come on. Stay with me. Flaps up. All right, guys. Keep your fingers crossed that I can actually steer this thing down the runway. Okay. I just want to show you this airport because it looks nice. And someone asked a guy, he said, how'd you get this file so small? And he said he just used the, stock Asobo building. So this probably isn't true to life, but I've never been out here before, and it definitely looks good enough to me, and it looks way better than it did before, so no complaints here. And then once we get stopped, we'll check out little NavMap real quick, and then we'll have another one in the bag. So again, getting back to the flight plan competition, if this is your first time here and you got a few great places you'd like us to check out, just let me know. Again, the codes for the departure, arrival, and something to see in between. I'll sort out the rest of it. And at the end of each period, we will vote on Discord as a community for the best one, and the winner will get a gift card to the sim vendor of your choice. Looks like we got a little guy waiting for us down there, but I don't think I can steer this thing well enough to get over to him. All right, I'm just going to cut across the grass because we got our big off-road tires here. We can do it. Save a little time. Look at this. I got a little fire truck, fuel truck down there. And that's exactly the kind of truck I'd expect to see out here. See that little island behind the tower over there? There's one airport out there and a tiny little port, but they've actually got a little population center out there, and I'll show that to you too here in a second. I can't imagine how they get food and everything out there because there's no gardens or anything. All right, let's go ahead and stop, and I'll just shut the mags off, which are up over my shoulder, so let me change my camera view just a bit. Okay. Parking brake on. Bang into my microphone. All right, let's look at this map real quick. So there it is, and there's the flight plan. If you want to take it like I did on autopilot for some reason, you're just going to have to climb like crazy, so you probably couldn't do it in a Cessna or something like that. Even the Kit Fox, the Cub, I don't think they'd be able to climb fast enough to do it, which is why this plane is great unless you want to loop way out here. But you got to get to around 6,500, 7,000 feet to clear this lip here. And again, if you want to go all the way to the top of this, it's about 9,000 feet. But that'll give you roughly what we checked out as we were going along. And here's that little town there. Look at that. Incredible. They get like 4 or 5 hotels, a bunch of restaurants, bars. I wonder how long it takes to drive up there. Because you'd be coming into this place. I don't think you'd come into the other one. Let me show you this place. Look at this. Does that not look like Comoros? So I don't know if they got blanketed with all that ash during, let's see how close we can get, during that 2014-15 eruption or what, but you can see a lot of the roofs are missing, and it looks like they really just haven't cleaned up anything. And there's 1, 2, 3 cars. And where was the 4th one? But, I mean, you don't even see really any parked cars, so I don't know if this place is just vacant or now or what. Even over here, too. This town down here looks pretty good, though. São Filipe. You can see they got roofs and everything on there, so I'm guessing the prevailing winds blew everything to the other side of the island, because that one looks like it's in good shape. But let me show you this little island real quick. Look at this little town they got down here. They got a nice stadium, of course. They got a little town square down here. If it will depixelate, we'll take a look at that, which I don't know if it will or not. Look at this. Probably a beautiful little flight if you go out there. I don't know if that garden would be modeled or not, but the only port out here, there's the airport, which is, ooh, that's less than 2,000 feet long. Not very big. But this is their only port out here. Look at that. So that's probably the biggest ship you could get in there. So everything's got to come either by plane or by boat. And then here's the island that got shellacked by the tsunami 73,000 years ago. And here's the bigger port that they moved to. The original settlement was right down here, so this is Big River out here. So this is where they originally settled, right down here. That's their Big River. But it got attacked so many times they moved it here, which I don't know why they wouldn't have set it up here first, because that looks like a much, much better harbor for the 15th century. But that's a good-looking island, and none of them that I could find had any of that blotchy coverage from the satellite maps, so you could probably see the ground as it should be in most places. I just didn't think the resolution was quite as good as it was in that last one. You could see there's no trees on this one, really, or anything else. But up here is their other big port. So this is the other big city out here. And if I was going to take a look at another island, well, that looks a little bit funny, doesn't it? So I don't know how that would look. But this one looks pretty cool. But they just don't have a giant volcanic crater. But they do have some volcanoes. Check that out. But not a lot of population. So you could probably pick anywhere out here. But if you want to see that massive volcano, go down to Fogo. There's our one ship that we could have seen. Jeez, that's way out there. And that's it. That's Fogo, Cape Verde. Stay tuned. All kinds of awesome stuff coming up. Can't wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.